Hello and welcome to all of you to an exciting mini webinar session on business analytics. I have with me my team consisting of Nipender, a master of computer applications, and Harshita and Vishal, experts in their own domains, to help us out in this webinar. I also have the pleasure to have with me Dr. Sachin Sharma, an MTech and PhD in computer sciences and HOD of business analytics with me as the co-presenter. My name is Dr. Kamal Kishore Sharma. I am a fellow of IIM Ahmedabad, currently Director General at Takshila Business School, and together we have about 50 years of experience to share with you. While Dr. Sachin is an expert on technology, languages and tools, I have been driving more on the side of users and potential of business analytics. Dr. Sachin, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Kamal Kishore Sharma. It is an extreme pleasure to sit by your side as a co-host for this session. This area of business analytics is an area of enormous possibilities. We will try to make the things as simple as possible in this session so that it will be fruitful for the most of the audience we were having right now.
Great, true that. The world around us is changing very, very fast. Technology is driving our personal lives and businesses in multiple and myriad ways. Look around and you'll witness a sea change in the way we communicate. Our communication patterns have graduated from one-to-one to internet, social media, mobile devices, and our activities as consumers have switched over from physical transactions to booking online, cabs, hotels, tickets, shopping, surfing, everything has gone online, Dr. Sachin.
Yes, sir, definitely. Our life has changed and it is still changing. And that change we have faced in past years is of the order of a speed of light. See, we have cloud computing and other enabling technology at our outset, which captures data, and we are living in the data age. So communication through mobile phone, while you are surfing your mobile phone, any social network, social media website, and all those things are capturing your data, and that massive data is the data what we have in our data repositories, and the need of the time is to harness the potential which is there in that data so that we can get actionable insights in business decision making.
That's exactly what is business analytics we talk about, to get analysis and insight from data to be able to use it for business decision making. Let's look a little deeper into history. We all know CXOs used to take decisions on gut or have an army of people to put together data in Excel sheets collected from different places. Could be registers, could be log sheets, could be reports. This data compilation itself used to take a lot of time. And even a small analysis like a sales forecast would take days to complete that. And then even after that, the managers were not sure. They were depending on luck and also on competition to prove those decisions right or wrong. So from that to date, a lot of water has flown down Ganga River. Businesses are increasingly organizing efforts around using the business intelligence generated by the world of business analytics in almost every sector. For example, banks, retail, modern retail, insurance, media, education, manufacturing, FMCG goods. Business analytics helps us understand the past performance, take informed decisions, and predict the consequences of those decisions better. It's an incredibly powerful tool that has become indispensable for businesses to drive performance in the future. It also helps you understand better your industry, your competitors, your consumers in order to take the right kind of decisions. So let's understand a little more deeper into the nuts and bolts of business analytics. Firstly, it uses data, a large amount of data, and that is collected and stored properly in electronic mediums almost everywhere around you or away from you. Secondly, it analyzes such data to understand, diagnose and describe the underlying behavior beneath the data, the trends beneath the data. Thirdly, such an analysis is used to predict and prescribe on options that help business decision making in almost all functions. Production, you talk about finance, you talk about marketing, you talk of HR. In fact, all of the above, the step 1 to 3 that I just talked about, they help the managers to take important business decisions to drive business strategy and future performance. So first things first, what is this data? What is it about data? Throw us some more light, Dr. Sachin, on data.
Sir, as I had already said, we are living in data age, and data, we are massively producing this data at an exponential rate. See, the amount of data which we are generating is exponentially increasing, means the data what we had generated in the past year is double of what it was produced in the past few years, and this rate is doubling continuously. So this exponential increase in the data what we have in our repositories is continuously increasing. The trend is exponential.
I remember, in fact, one statistic I read a few days back that all the data we have today, 90% of that data was generated in just the last 2 years.
Yes, sir. I am adding upon into the statement of yours. The overall amount of data what we have till 2013, since the beginning of time, is almost the same data we are producing every year since 2014 onwards. And it is still doubling the rate. The rate is exponential. Why? Because we have such huge giants of market like Google and Amazon, which captures the data. This is just an example. Data is captured everywhere. You are leaving your digital footprints everywhere. When you are surfing on the net, when you are moving, Google Timeline is also capturing your data. It shows you a mail at the end of the month that these are the places you have visited at this time, and you can visualize that graph on monthly basis, on quarterly basis, on yearly basis. So capturing data, almost every aspect of data, what ad you are interested most when you are watching YouTube videos, what ads you have skipped, what ads you have not skipped, and even if you are not, even if you have not skipped that ad, for how long you have viewed that ad is also captured.
I guess you're talking about advertisement.
Advertisement.
Right? Yeah.
So all these analytics are captured by Google, and this massive data is stored and then analyzed and then presented to you in the form of tailored advertisements. They are accessing the user access pattern. They are doing sentiment analysis over that they are inferring the interest of the user based upon the access patterns, and this is for the sole purpose of getting profitability in the business.
Right.
Target advertisements.
I understand that. In fact, as I believe, data can take actually multiple forms. It can be in the form of voice,
Yes.
video, image, text, numbers. It can be stored in your Excel on your computers, and it could be stored anywhere across the internet. Whatever you surf, whatever you search, whatever you speak to Alexa, Siri, Google Assistant, your emails, your social media activities, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, basically you are generating data everywhere, and there are computers and sensors that are catching data everywhere.
Yes, sir.
I'm also aware that there are smart machines, smart cities, smart watches, smart lights, smart beds, smart cars, smart offices. What is it about? What is the smartness about them? It is all about that each one of them have a sensor inside them that collects data, analyzes, and suggests or an action of its own. So the AC will switch on by itself, or AC will switch on off by itself, or it may just require a signal to the human behind that machine to press a button. So that's the power of data analytics in our everyday life.
Yes, sir.
Business and humanity are putting almost every effort to convert this data into intelligence and for better decision making. But how exactly do they do that, Dr. Sachin? tell us first something about, where is all this data stored?
Okay.
There must be some place
Yes,
where
sir. Yes, sir.
everything is getting stored, yeah?
Sir, let's take things one by one. Sir, cloud computing, as this is also a buzzword these days, is the enabling technology that enables you to access everything, even on your handheld device like mobile phone. What we need is a device which is capable of running just Internet Explorer or any internet browser. So, cloud computing enables you to access everything, whatever you want to access. Even your smart household appliances you can control through cloud computing
cloud
environment.
is basically some large data center, right?
Cloud computing makes use of data centers.
Okay.
A data center is a place where data is stored, as is indicated by the name.
Yeah.
And the companies like Google, Amazon, Yahoo, and other giants have their own data centers. And one more interesting thing I want to tell you, the size of the data centers, what these companies are having.
For example, a pen drive can have 16 GB or 32 GB of data. Okay.
And they have massive data centers which are measured on the scale of football fields.
Oh, wow.
So Facebook and Google have data centers of the order of 50 to 100 football fields. A football field is generally having the area of, I guess, 48,000 square feet. So they have data centers of the order of 50 or 100 football fields.
Great. I understand very recently I've also known that Adani Group is offering, is creating data centers in India itself.
And one more thing I want to add into it is this, that see, these data centers are usually built keeping in mind the availability. Means the user have the access of data 24/7 multiplied by 365 and the computers never shut down. Data is replicated in multiple servers. These buildings in which data centers are built are earthquake resistant buildings.
Oh, wow.
They are at places which are powered by diesel generators, and those generators have fuel for about 6 months or an year. So they ensures that the server will never shut down. It will shut down only for a few seconds or a minute in the entire year. That is, they are giving us the availability in terms of nines. 99.999 means a few seconds of an year.
I'm sure that is required for maintenance of some of those machines. Okay, all right. Let's go a little further into, okay, so that data is there. Data could be sitting on your computer, laptop, it could be sitting on your mobile, it could be sitting in some data center which could be in India or New York or Singapore or anywhere, Dubai, right? What do we do with this data, and how does intelligence come out of that data? There must be languages and tools. You are an expert of that,
Yes,
why don't you take us through one of those tools? I understand R is a great tool everybody talks about. So can you take us with an exercise to go through R and understand, what is the power of such languages and tools?
Yes, sir. We'll be coming on to that, but before that I want to just add upon into this discussion a few simple things. See, we have programming languages now, and the industry trend in terms of hardware, the physical hardware, the semiconductor industry is at a boom, and it has made tremendous progress in, say, last 25 years. I want to add upon it that the cheapest, the most costliest computer in the year 1965, say around, is around 1000 times slower as compared to cheapest computer we have in 2020.
Excellent simile.
And it is about 1000 times of more price as we have in 2020. So that gives us a price performance ratio of the order of 10 raised to power 6. So hardware industry has made a remarkable progress in last 40 years. So now we have processors which are multi-core processors. Now we have processing powers of the order of flops, multiple flops, floating point operations.
Basically what you're saying is computing speeds have exploded.
Computing speeds have exploded, and these programming languages like R are purposefully built to exploit or to harness those power which lies inside the processor of computer to make sense the data, which is obviously big data.
Yeah,
So all this has come up with an environment in which we can use these languages, we can use these hardware platforms, and we could get an insight. Now coming up to the example of R, I had prepared a few lines of code to demonstrate.
Let's show it on the screen. Let's share it on screen.
So this is the data of a soft drink production, soft drink manufacturing unit of India. Particularly, this data belongs to Rajasthan. It is the data since 1980 onwards. I had arranged it particularly for this seminar. My friend has emailed me this data. What this data showing is from the year 1980. This is the month. This is the monthly software production in Rajasthan in megaliters, and we have this data from 1980 January onwards till.
So that is very rich. I see that every year and every month we have million liters, megaliters basically, production of that soft drink, right?
Yes, till 2019 December.
Okay.
So this is the data we are having.
This is raw, as in from the numbers I can't make out
Yes.
much. Can we actually organize, let's say if this is the data, if I want to see the first few months or let's say last few months, what was the production, what can be done over there? Can we do that?
Yes, definitely sir, we can do that. I'm just showing you what we can do with this data. This is the R icon. This is the R console.
Okay, this is the interface of
This is the
R
interface.
with you, with
Yes.
any user,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay.
And this is some lines of code that I had already prepared.
Okay.
These packages we need not, because
That sounds
yes.
very English, sort of. It doesn't look like those ones and zeros and binary language.
So it will be soon be clear to you, sir. Standard libraries we have imported.
Okay.
So that is, we have loaded this data into our environment.
Let's see the data now.
First
How
few
does it look like?
See, the data look like this, sir. At the console, it look like this.
Okay, this is what you have only selected the first 6
Yes.
months of production. Okay,
Yes.
all right. This looks like more organized. If we want to see the last 6,
That is through
okay,
the tail function. Very
Tail
simple function.
Yeah, I
Tail
can see
function
that.
will show you the last entries. Altogether,
Okay.
there are 480 entries. First 6 entries through this head method,
sure.
this command, and simple commands are
Yeah,
there.
very simple commands.
Yes.
Let's say these are all numbers, like month and number. But a picture is worth 1,000 words. Okay.
Okay.
Can we plot it? Let's say an annual plot of all the whatever data we have.
See, sir, the yearly plot can be plotted. The year-wise production timeline can be visualized through this. Is this?
Oh, lovely. So I think you had pre-written those
Yes.
commands, but that is fine and that's not very difficult to
Yes.
understand. I can see that even a layman who does not have a background in computers can actually
Definitely.
learn and write all that stuff. So here I can see that there is a very clear increasing trend from 1980 to 2000, and
then-
after that it looks like it has plateaued, and in the recent years it has been kind of coming down. But it doesn't give me, that data was so rich in monthly data, monthly numbers.
Yes.
Can we look at quarterly numbers here?
Yes, sir. For quarterly numbers,
Okay, once again a very simple,
command.
okay.
Just I had written quarters because I had already
All right.
taken this,
Okay.
and frequency is 4, means I had divided into 4 parts each year.
Okay.
So by writing it over here like this, this is
Okay.
the quarterly index.
That's a lot of graph jumping into each other.
Yes.
So it's very clear if I have to read this 4 quarters in a year, and a few quarters seem to be very high on and few quarters seem to be very low on. Is that kind of, we could see the trend. Is there some kind of seasonality or something? Can we look deeper into, let's say, monthly numbers?
For monthly numbers, we can plot the graph like this. Entire data set will be plotted. What we have, because we have data in terms of the monthly production.
Right.
So entire data can be plotted without any frequency parameter in the function like this.
Okay, can we blow up this graph?
Yes. So this is the graph.
Okay.
And see, it has a lot of components inside it. So it is just the straightforward visualization of the entire data what we are having.
Great, and it shows a lot of intelligence just by looking at the data. We can work around. So can there be some box plot or something? How do I see? What could be a mean, median, percentile, quartile, or something? How do I see that?
There are commands, specific commands for this, but one of the most important graph for this kind of analysis, in which production of some FMCG item which is related with the environmental condition or the seasonality aspect, one of the most important ways is to analyze it using season plot.
Okay.
So
Let's see that.
season plot can be plotted in this manner.
Once again, it doesn't look very difficult.
It is just a straightforward. What a student or a data scientist need to do, who is enthusiastic to do such kind of experiment, is to just learn the command and the arguments. What the function takes as the argument, just the data.
I'll need a tutoring from you very soon, Dr. Sachin.
So that is the season plot, sir.
Oh, this is lovely. I can now see a month across all the years. So January month, all the years production, and June. So clearly June wins the gold medal here, and May and April, May, June are the months, and as would be very obvious from a soft drink company, and these months would be the highest data months. What more can we read from this?
See, sir, there are few things. This data is for 40 years.
Okay.
It is the data starts from 1980 onwards till 2019. So approximately it is 40 years.
Right.
And we have 40 different colors.
Yes.
See, this 2006 is light green color. Here somewhere 2006 is, because entire data cannot be plotted on this screen size. So we can visualize the trend over here. So 40 different colors are used. Years are marked here also and here also, and a line goes from 2006 to 2006.
Okay, all right.
From 2006 on left hand side to 2006 on right hand side.
This is a lovely depiction of a graph.
And it clearly shows that in the month of June, where at the peak of the summer, the production is highest. And it is also somewhat around same in the month of May. April also to some extent.
Started rising from March onwards, and very clearly visible.
In July, at the end of the July, we have some monsoon type of season in Rajasthan, which is also there in August.
I understand, and this is production data. So they would have done a lot of production, which they might have pushed, and there would be a lot of inventory.
Yes.
So the next month production would expect it to be a little down. That is understandable.
So a clear visualization of the data we can have it from here.
This 2005 is running out of the graph. What is that?
Sir, 2005 is a special point which doesn't seems to belong to this entire data set.
Okay.
Such data points are called outliers.
Okay, I understand.
So it is a separate subject in itself, the outlier analysis. And data scientists who are continuously doing such exercises, by the time they are efficiently analyzing what are outliers and how these outliers can be considered. See, in 2005, there might be, it is probably that the company is getting some export order of anything is possible. Yeah. So that is an outlier which does not belong to the normal class.
Let's go on to that mean, median, mode, percentiles, quartiles, how we can derive more intelligence from this data.
Okay, I am showing it in a minute, sir. So plot is an STL plot. This gives the variations. Can I show you the variations?
Yeah, please.
You want to show me the box plot or the variations?
I think variations, let's look at the variations first. I want to look deeper into, this is how, the business has to draw intelligence out of what data is there. 40 years of data is a very rich data. If I get very good indications from the production data, I will be able to plan my marketing spend, plan my marketing campaigns, plan my raw material acquisition and all that. Let's look a little more deeper. What is the potential of R to do to help me do that?
This is one of the standard function STL for this analysis. So now this is the component-wise analysis of the entire data set. Here we have 4 components. Popularly, although I am getting some bit technical into it, there is a model, sir. The model is called Box-Jenkins model.
Okay.
And it analyzes the entire time series data in terms of 4 components.
Okay.
The first component is the trend component. The trend gives you the entire insight that the trend is at higher side, the trend is increasing,
plateauing, lowering, fluctuating and all that.
So that is a broad brush picture of the entire timeline.
Okay.
The second
so that's the third box here,
that's
right?
the third box.
Okay, trend.
This is the trend
line. Okay.
Of the soft drink production.
All right.
Right from 1980 onwards to 2019. The second is the seasonality component.
Okay.
And seasonality component is particularly important for those items which have different sales figures across different months of an year.
And for soft drink, it would be very obvious.
And it is obvious for soft drink.
Right.
Correctly said. The third component is the cyclic component.
Okay. And so that's the top one, right? The data which is the headed is data. That's the cyclical component.
Yes.
There's a trend, there's a seasonality, and now you're talking about cyclical component.
Yes. And cyclical component is although same as seasonality, but it captures several other aspects also for that timeline.
Okay.
Okay. As far as for this product is concerned, it is not related with those things, but as far as if we have some data related to say for example, say gold price.
Gold price, okay.
Which depends upon the price of crude oil, which depends upon the price of dollar and other things also.
Okay.
So for that, cyclic component captures the world economy, what stats is there, the Dow index,
country economy, and all that.
real estate and everything. It takes into account. So cyclic component is particularly important in those kind of analysis. And the third, what is named as remainder here, fourth, which is named as remainder. The fourth one is the component which reflects the noise or anonymous behavior which we cannot capture through any mathematical modeling. The randomness component which is there.
Right, that's fine. So a person who is trying to look at the data would also not be able to explain every phenomenon through these aspects. So there is some remainder which phenomenon cannot be explained. Let's go to a box plot. I was, that was quite a lot informative to me. Can we go to the box plot to where median, quartiles, etc.
One more thing before going to box plot, I will be going to it shortly, but I want to add one thing. That understanding of these 4 components forms the crux of the forecasting.
Okay.
So if there is a person who have some understanding of this thing, who have some gut feeling which comes from the experience only, while seeing such kind of analysis, who can analyze and interpret these all 4 components, will be able to, even by his mind also, to forecast what predictions can be made.
That would be magic.
Yes. And although we have mathematical models, we will be discussing them shortly.
All right. Okay.
So these are all the 4 components, which are the generic components outlined by Box-Jenkins which are used for forecasting, even by mathematical models.
So that is the end product I would love to have. Once I have, from the data I have understood what has been the past behavior, how can I use that data and analytics to forecast or predict into the future? That is going to help me in taking business decisions on production, marketing, HR, how many people, how much of raw material, what supply chain would be required. So that forecasting and prediction is going to be very important to see. How do we do that?
First, coming up to the box plot, as you have asked, sir. So
yeah, so that gave a very good picture of, you know, some percentiles and quartiles.
Yes, quartiles and percentiles.
Median and mean kind of.
This
yeah,
is the box plot.
Yeah.
Particular, see, the proper name is box and gen.
That's fine.
Yes, yes. So what is indicated by this plot is we are seeing some. We are looking at some cylindrical figures. Some.
Standing rectangular figures.
Standing rectangle, where we have this upper bound and this lower bound.
Okay.
And inside of which is a box.
Okay.
And there are dashed lines which are connecting from here to here.
Okay.
See, this is, and at the vertical axis we have megaliters,
the production.
And at the horizontal axis we have months. Okay. So we are considering in this box plot all the years. We are considering January of all the years.
40 years of data here.
40 years of data of January.
Okay.
40 years of data of February.
Yeah.
And what this is depicting is, this is the least production what we
all
have
right. Okay.
in
so
any of the January.
Top line would be the most highest production.
Yes, top line is the highest production, and this, between this box lies 50% of the data points.
Okay.
This is the first 25%.
And
this is the last 25%.
What's that dark black line?
The dark black line is the mean or the average production in January.
Across 40 years.
Across 40 years.
Okay.
So that is one of the most important plot, and in several type of context, this will give you a in-depth insight.
So I'm sure, you know, what I've seen, the power of R is, you know, giving you multiple such visualization means to understand the data deeper. That's great. So we have looked at that.
And one more thing I want to add is this: that such insights are cannot be made with use of MS Excel. What people were using before 10 years or say even 5 years from now, if we are going back 5 years, many analysts use Excel or advanced Excel for this, but such a kind of understanding of the data directly with a single click is not possible through Excel. Or if it is possible, it is very, very difficult to have such kind of plots through Excel.
That's the power of these special language and data analytics tools.
Which are built purposely for this.
Let's see some magic. You know, I think we will be interested in knowing, you know, what kind of forecasting that we can do with this 40 years of data. Let's say for the next 3 years, maybe. Yeah.
I had pre-written some code for this.
I know that. I asked you yesterday evening this, and you know, you worked hard on this. But that's not very large set of parameters or commands that you have to write.
Yes.
It's a very English looking.
So we have considered here 4 models. 4 mathematical models.
That is fine, you know, different models will throw different numbers.
Different models, and that I'll be showing you in the legend of the graph.
Okay.
You will be having that in the legend section of the graph. These are the models, and this is the line. And this is the forecast.
Okay. So the different colors are probably using different models to forecast, right?
Yes. Different colors are used to forecast different. One is the naive-Bayes model, then other is the average model, and there are certain models which can predict. So these models captures these 4 components, what we had discussed, the seasonality, the cyclic, and other components, and they predict like this, what predictions can be there. And one more thing I want to add, usually what happens is,
give me a moment. Purushottam Kumar, you have raised your hand. I will get back to you as we finish these arguments. There will be a session on, you know, questions and answers, and I hope you are around till that time. Yeah, please, Dr. Sanjay.
So what I was telling is this: Basically, what we need is to have a justification of the model, that the model what we are developing, what we have developed out of from the data is predicting accurately or not.
Okay.
For that purpose, what data we have, we divide that data into two parts. One of which is called the training data and the other one is called the test data.
All right, so I understand that, you are going to divide the whole data into two
Yes.
parts. One is training, from where you will derive some forecasting and then test that forecasting against the
Yes.
test data.
For
And then
yes, sir. For example, what we have is the data from 1980 to the year 2019. So we are dividing it and then predicted result to actual results, which will prove the validity.
so we'll be able to actually validate
Yes.
also the result.
Yes. So only then the results can be validated, that whether the predicted results would match the actual results when we are dividing this entire data
Right.
sets.
So if you look at it, it organizes the data.
Yes.
It organizes the numbers. It reads that. It analyzes it. It throws visualization, beautiful visualizations. I think there are other softwares also like Tableau or some other visualization
Alteryx
software.
is also there.
Alteryx
Alteryx
is
is
there.
also there.
All right. Okay. And then we can use it to understand our past data better and also forecast it for future decision making. This is powerful.
This is the reason why business analytics is included as an essential component in all the MBA and PGDM courses.
Okay, I mean, in fact, look at it, the business analytics part of it, that how businesses are using this analytics to predict the future and help decision making. I have some examples that I generally note from what things are happening around you. Like the banks are determining the credit worthiness and decide on amount of loan that can be given to a customer based on their credit scores. How do they do that? Data analytics. How do they find out their spending profiles, how much they will ask for it? Data analytics. Retail stores are able to predict customer footfalls they would expect on coming
Yes, sir.
specific days, specific time frames. That's business analytics. Manufacturing industry can accurately predict the wear and tear of maintenance and maintenance requirement on machines. That is again data and analytics, which leads to business
Again, yes,
analytics.
sir.
FMCG companies, if they make some assumption on a product segment-wise market growth rate, they have to use it for planning a campaign, a marketing campaign. That again is
Yes,
business analytics. Marketing departments can even predict what would the competition do if they increase the price or decrease the price based on their past behavior. Once again, that is business analytics.
Yes, sir.
Companies are able to reach out to the most likely consumer, that is targeted advertisements. How do they get this information that somebody would be interested in this bottle of water? I can reach out to them directly. That's again business analytics.
Yes, sir.
That's the power of business analytics. The future of skill must be very exciting, Dr. Sachin.
Sir, the requirement, as McKinsey studies are stating the talent gap, what is required, I want to add one point into it, is that it doesn't require that much mathematical background as it is hyped.
Okay.
It is a general misconception among people that being data scientist, being business analyst require a mathematical background and altogether heavy mathematical background. It is not at all required. What is required
But if it is there, it helps.
if it is there, it helps.
Okay.
But what actually is required is analytical thinking,
Okay.
the problem solving mindset,
Okay.
the rigor to understand.
Hard work.
Hard work
Yes.
is necessarily and smart work. And see, sir, these tools and technologies, what we are here at our outside, the R, the Alteryx. I want to add one thing. I want to make it clear to all of our audience also that all these things are extremely simple. it is not that difficult like general purpose programming language what we were having in the year 2004 in the last decade.
Okay.
In the year 2000, in the year 2004, in the year 2008, what we are having is general purpose C programming language. Still there, that language is in the context.
We'll not go into programming, etc. That's fine.
But what I want to convey to our audience right now is this, that these tools, which are the need of the time, fortunately are very simple to understand and very simple to learn.
That's great. In fact, you referred to McKinsey reports about the huge talent gap that exists in this. Even Harvard University itself has predicted that this is going to be the phenomenon of the coming decades. Even Gartner research says the same, that it's one of the most important technology trend. So there is a huge demand for this skill. In fact, Glassdoor is a very respected platform that talks about salaries and work environments. And they did a survey for more than 14,000 people they asked them about their starting salaries once they have done a course in business analytics, an MBA in business analytics. And they came out with the result that, the starting salaries are more than 7.5 lakhs per annum. These are high starting salaries. And not only that, since the gap is there, the skill gap is there, there is immense potential for growth, career growth of these students. We also need to be aware of the fact that gone are the days when there used to be an MIS department or an EDP department in business.
Yes, sir.
Now today you want the marketing manager to understand and do that data analysis himself or herself. Similarly, in the finance department, in the HR department, they need to be not only knowledgeable about their function, but also about the tools that they can use to analyze a little bit of data here and a little bit of data there. And once they get used to this, I'm sure big data, which is another field, some other day we will talk about that. I see that smile on your face.
Yes, sir.
Big data is something big. So big data means more intelligence, right? So in fact, the management education world is also now dealing with this skill shortage. How do they do that? I mean, what are they doing in fact in the business schools? What are they doing?
Sir, I had gone through the syllabus of most of the reputed universities, and even it is my personal opinion also, after studying a lot of literature on the internet is there. See, business analyst or this analytics overall is not at all a subject as of now. It is a tool to understand the other subjects.
Okay.
So business analytics, as general business analytics, is taught at many universities, but as far as the course content of other subjects, like one of the major subject is marketing, so it is an integral part of now in these subjects also. We are doing case studies using business analytics as a tool.
Okay.
And no case study without business analytics is going to be approved or it is justified as of now.
So as I understand,
yes,
you would have a few courses on how and what of business analytics and some knowledge about the tools and languages.
Yes.
And then you have to embed those pieces of knowledge into every functional area.
Whether HR or finance or marketing or whatever.
So it doesn't make sense today to actually offer it as an elective. Actually, it makes all the more sense to integrate it and make it a compulsory specialization across MBA schools, right?
Yes, sir. Gone are the days when it was elective, but now it is an integral part. It is one of the core subjects of every MBA and PGDM, and the student is expected to have a command over it. Only then it will do the best in its marketing sub course or its in his HR course. So this is one of the tools.
Okay, so in a nutshell now, let's sum it up. The skill gap is huge. Every function needs to integrate the knowledge with the knowledge of business analytics. The careers and salaries and compensation is very exciting around the world of business analytics. And The management schools, some of them are offering it as compulsory specialization, some are offering it as elective specialization, but there are not many offers as of now. I only, see a few IIMs, some Great Lakes, and some other institutions, including Takshila Business School. So, right, okay then, that's about what we had to discuss on business analytics. All right, so that brings us to the end of this webinar. Thank you very much, Dipender, Harshita, and Vishal. And thank you very much, my co-presenter, Dr. Sachin. It was a pleasure to have you here.
The pleasure is mine, sir, absolutely. To have a session with you.
Thank you very much.